the Forbes publication, in particular, this journalist who's one of their entertainment reporters, Paul Tassi, versus Star Wars Theory.
Titty Tassels.
Paul Titty Tassels, yes. And this has been something that's kind of been blown up over the course of this last week, where everyone's favorite Star Wars YouTuber, Star Wars Theory, has been unfairly targeted by a group of cancel culture thugs. And now a actual journalist is kind of like hopping on board and trying to basically get his Star Wars Theory channel taken down. If you go to Star Wars Theory X account, he has a bunch of posts that kind of illustrate this stuff. But what essentially happened was that Star Wars Theory did a video kind of breaking down a very bad, you can kind of see it right here, bad take by Paul Tassi on why the Acolyte is better than people think, and everyone who's criticizing it is wrong. And then Paul Tassi basically said that because of this video, he's getting death threats from Theory's 3 million followers, and he's trying to file police reports and take these people down. And over on Reddit, everyone's favorite wretched hive of scum and villainy, there's this spinoff of the Saltier Than Crate subreddit called Saltier Than Crate, spelled with a K. And this is kind of
How
like
did I not even need to check to know there would be a rainbow filter on the avatar?
Yeah. So this is kind of like the more woke version of the Star Wars community that was over on Reddit. Of course,
every community has it, right? Yeah. We got the freaking Sig Marxism over there for Warhammer, and the gays for BattleTech or whatever it's called. And actually, we have the normal BattleTech subreddit for the SJW stuff now. So.
But Saltier Than Crate has been creating a targeted brigade campaign, is what it's called, to try to not only take down Star Wars Theory's own subreddit, but also take down his YouTube channel, get him demonetized, basically get him canceled because of his basically criticism of Star Wars. And this is all coming off the heels of a coordinated effort from a number of very large Star Wars YouTube channels to try to get not only Gary from Nerdrotic, but also Geeks and Gamers and Ryan Kinnell demonetized for their criticisms of the Acolyte, basically saying that their criticisms of the fictional stuff equate to racism, sexism, hate, toxicity, all this other stuff. Right. And basically, Star Wars Theory, he claims that he's been bullied for going on 8 years now by all these other channels, but he's just ignored it and kind of stayed focused on, talking about Star Wars. But now that people are literally coming out and trying to basically destroy him, he feels the need to basically defend himself. And so he's punching back. And it's a very interesting kind of take. In fact, Mr. Butters, you're the one who told me that this was brewing. Can you give us a breakdown of how you saw it unfold and whose side you're on?
I give you a breakdown of how I saw it on the internet like everybody else did, man. But what I'm getting here is that there's this organized group of idiots out there, and they're basically banding together to they tried to get YouTube, Google to take down, Ryan and Theory and Gary and Geeks and Gamers and all those guys, just for having an opinion, for putting their stuff out there, like every one of us do, and Tom does, and Razor does, and Culture does, and they're trying to take their livelihoods away. This is how people. This is beyond a hobby for most of these people at this point. I'm still at the hobby stage. We get enough to buy some beer to drink during our podcast. Basically. When we're doing our things, these guys are making, money. They're supporting families. They're, they got payments to make. They have bills to pay. And, for these people to go out there because they don't agree with their takes and pull the racism card and all the ists and phobe cards to try to get these people's livelihoods taken away is below shit. It's just pure scumbaggery. And, what else can you say? And then when you get somebody like Theory, who has been doing this for a long time now, biggest Star Wars channel out there.
Oh, since before you were born.
Yeah, this dude, nobody is more passionate about Star Wars than Star Wars Theory. The dude lives, breathes, shits this stuff. It's wild to watch. He's so knowledgeable that you're not going to take this guy down. And he got pushed and pushed and pushed, and I think he finally they crossed his line, and I think he's out there taking heads now, and it's kind of wild to see, and I'm happy he's finally doing it, because these people need to be knocked down a few pegs. You know what I'm saying? So good on him, and he's got the audience, the base out there to have some influence with these people. Now of course all of a sudden Disney and all these people, they're trying to flag his videos for copyright and all this kind of stuff, and he's had agreements with these people in the past, like on his Vader video. He had an agreement with Disney, I believe, that they would never be monetized. He doesn't run ads on it, he doesn't make money on it, but all of a sudden they're running ads now on his Vader fan fiction films and stuff, and it's not cool, man. There's a concerted effort out there to try to take him down, and I wasn't very happy about it when I saw it going on. So it's pretty crazy.
Well, before we throw it to Tom Connors Jr., just want to remind everyone, if you want to be entered into the giveaway for the Ghost of the Badlands graphic novel, feel free to drop hashtag Badlands into the chat, because at the end of the live stream, we're going to do a random winner selection. And if you want to be entered into that, just drop in that hashtag to be entered into it. Tom, you've been the target of various cancellation campaigns, and Star Wars Theory, he was like the most milquetoast YouTuber out there. Like, he never said anything controversial, in fact, like, for a long time, people were accusing him of like shilling for Disney because he just wouldn't say anything negative about like what it was they were doing. And he's recently kind of shifted his philosophy to be like, I'm a fan of Lucas Star Wars, and he's specifically leaving out Disney because
How else could you still be a fan of Star Wars?
Yeah. Well, apparently Star Wars Explained has figured out a way, but it's all based around how much access and money that Disney shells out to them. But Tom, I wanted to ask you, so like, a lot of people are theorizing that Disney, much like when they took down Gina Carano and stuff like that, that there's a element in Lucasfilm who's kind of behind these movements to take down anyone who's criticizing them. Do you have any insight on that?
I don't have any real insight, but I've posited that myself. It seems very orchestrated, seems very connected.
Yeah. And you often see some kind of like industry connection with a lot of these people, these cancel pigs.
Yeah. Whether it's themselves getting some sort of access or goodies or what have you, or trying to stay in good graces to get screeners and other things like that. There's all sorts of things. I mean, we've all seen, what was it, Christian Harloff, who had the big freak out going, I'm the biggest Star Wars fan in the world, and they didn't send me free tickets. Well, don't completely tell us what you're all about there, buddy.
Right.
But anyway, I think at the end of the day, this feels very orchestrated, and it's kind of a last ditch effort. It's part of what I call the final which is where the other side will get so damn desperate near the end, they will try every little thing they can. And that's what this basically feels like, a desperation move. They tried, Rewriting Ripley tried 2 years ago to get rid of all of us, and that failed miserably for them. And this is appearing to fail miserably for this movement here, because the irony of ironies is them trying to, get rid of us is basically going against terms of services. So they're basically breaking more rules than any of us could be. So
right.
Yeah. Well, Razorfist, Rewriting Ripley, they were kind of the ones who instigated the initial thing against Geeks and Gamers and Jeremy about the Acolyte. And it just seems so crazy to me that, like, there's a targeted campaign to basically destroy people and destroy their reputations and their livelihood because they rightly pointed out that a show on TV was bad.
Right.
But
it would be one thing if it was like one aberration. And so it was debatable. Like, if all the Star Wars shows had been fantastic, and now here's this one guy speaking against this show, and it's got universal acclaim on. No, pretty much everybody agrees this is a turd. It's a giant turd. It's already canceled. Nobody cares. Right. This is not an aberrant opinion in the slightest. But you step outside. I remember, dude, when Last Jedi came out, and even before that, which a lot of people are high on Rogue One. I think it's a giant fest. But I thought it was definitely steering into a ditch at that point. And even looking back on Force Awakens, there was a lot to complain about. But I remember when that came out, and there's a God, I don't want to call this guy out. He was prominent Star Wars channel. It's not this guy, but it's another guy who's almost as big. They kept calling him a shill over it. Years later, the guy's still being called a shill. He just made a video like a month ago called shill. Right, I'm still being accused of being a shill. If you are talking about Star Wars this late in the game, if you haven't given up on this franchise, it kind of corrals you into a certain place where, you either got access at Lucasfilm or you really are just such a fanboy that they can do no wrong as long as there's lightsabers and blasters in it, right? So I think that's an element of it.
Mr. Razorfist, I wanted to ask you, like, if we just go back 4 years to about 2020, there was stuff like what Rewriting Ripley and all these cancel culture people were doing it, but it was actually working. Like YouTube would basically censor you, they take you down, they demonetize you. Happened famously to Steven Crowder with the whole Adpocalypse Part 2, that type of thing. And it seems like the far left people on the internet are still playing by the same playbook. But it feels like something's changed where basically YouTube came out and said, we reviewed this. There's no violation of our policies. This Forbes journalist has gone to the police to file a police report that one follower of Star Wars Theory has sent him rude and possibly life-threatening text messages that were
talk about a misstep though, because what'll happen in these situations is you get these drama pigs who they're not affiliated with Star Wars Theory, I guarantee you, and they're not affiliated with Lucasfilm or whatever. They just want to stir the shit. So they'll make sock accounts and they'll provoke people on both sides and try and get them to fight so they can screenshot it all and exploit it for drama and put it on their YouTube channels. And this happens every time there's some kind of conflict on the internet. So I bet if you looked into that guy and you hired a PI, he probably isn't even a fan of Star Wars Theory. It's probably just someone who's looking to stir drama, or it's a sociopath, right? Because the internet has no shortage of those. Well, I think it's a misstep, honestly.
What do you think's changed though? Because like this would have worked 4 years ago. What's happening right now? They would have demonetized Gary and Geeks and Gamers, and they would have taken down Star Wars Theory. But oddly enough, it's not working.
Right. Yeah, it's not working because they haven't violated policies and they've been careful for years. This is not their first rodeo. It's not their 200th, right? Mm-hmm. Nerdrotic, they've been trying to cancel him for freaking years, right? Yep. He's guilty of entirely too much wrongthink. The first wave of these kind of cancellations and takedowns and stuff, people forget there were like copyright strike attempts. I had to do all kinds of crazy video manipulation on my original Last Jedi video, I remember, because Lucasfilm, Disney were going aggressively after everyone over copyright just because the response to Last Jedi was so negative. If I had to guess, I don't really cover Star Wars anymore because I don't care like most rational people. But if I had to guess, that's probably only intensified. This is just the fact that they're careful. They've been careful. They've been careful not to violate policies. So why would they be canceled for? YouTube's also in an uncomfortable position. We're in election season, so people are paying a little more closer attention to their censorious behavior because we all know what happened last election cycle. They basically kind of admitted to manipulating stuff during the election, taking channels down. They did it to me. I almost lost my channel in the last election cycle over disinformation claims. So I think that's part of it too. They're minding their P's and Q's a little bit more.
Culture. So, you're someone who pays attention to this stuff quite carefully. When it comes to Star Wars Theory, like he comes off as such like a likable, nice guy, and to see him kind of punch back, he doesn't even punch back hard. It's almost like he just kind of like lightly taps him on the cheek or something like that. But people are acting like he's coming out swinging against people like Star Wars Explained and Rewriting Ripley and all these other people who are kind of like pushing back against him. But this Paul Tassi guy seems to be the worst case of it because he's got a bigger microphone than a lot of these other YouTube channels. So what's your take on this whole situation, and who do you think is going to come out on top with this?
Well, I think Tassie's been working very hard to undermine his credibility for the course of the last few months. I mean, ever since he took over for Scotty Boy Mendelson, he's really kind of screwed the pooch when it comes to his credibility. So I would say that, Theory is very, soft-spoken, to be sure, and he certainly isn't going back hard at all, comparatively. I mean, Ryan Cannell is the example of how to go back a little bit on the other side of the extreme, but it's effective, and I'm never going to criticize Ryan. I love him to death, but I'll just say that it first of all, it works for Theory because he understands his audience and the people that he appeals to. If anybody were to watch his material, it'd be hard for them to claim that he was doing anything that was abusive in any way. And look, he fights back with logic, information, facts, et cetera, et cetera. And I think he's got the most effective reply mechanism because he comes off as measured and a critical thinker and somebody who is not prone to hyperbole. He disarms the people's arguments with their own ridiculous words and statements. So Paul Tassi, on the other hand, is just kind of a not even a surface deep kind of guy. I mean, he might have a reach, but he doesn't have any depth. So I think when he brings out his opinions, unfortunately he's not a journalist, so he doesn't have a lot of facts to play good defense with, or even offense in this case. And again, this is the problem with modern day journalism. They just cite each other to try to build an argument. So it's like, okay, but where's this coming from? You saw this person say this, so you quoted whoever random anonymous person was on the internet and used that as a point of fact for the main point of your story. This is happening all over the place, and then they just continue to cite each other. Tassie's one of the worst. So he doesn't have facts. He can report on the cancel campaign, but he does it in such a soft peddling way that it leads a reader who's not really aware of what's happening to believe one thing. But if anybody bothers to do any bit of research whatsoever, they'll be like, oh wow, that was an incredibly slanted story. That was yellow journalism. That was that. I mean, and this dude, I'm sorry, Paul does that all the time. He hasn't had a nuanced, informed opinion story in a long, long time, and oftentimes he's easiest to disregard. Now, that Kane fellow over there at Forbes is much better when commenting on pop culture. He's got a lot of depth to him and understands it. I feel like Tassie was thrown in at the last moment because he happened to know how a computer works.
Well, one thing I do like about how Star Wars Theory replies to these people is he brings receipts. Like he'll show you screenshots of like his personal interactions with these people. Yeah. And he only does it after they come out and accuse him of stuff that's blatantly false that these things can disprove.
There's an element too of, you saw that screenshot of, I think it was Tassie saying, oh, but they're harassing my family on Instagram. First off, why are you letting your kids have Instagram? What is wrong with you? Second off, it's like, you understand once you're trying to get these channels canceled, now there's going to be nut jobs who are followers of the channel or are just kind of orbiting, who, number one, are going to kind of defend them, but also they recognize that you're engaging in a game of brinksmanship. And so now it's kind of doomsday time, so they're going to overreact. And he's got to understand that he kind of raised the temperature here, right, to begin with. This is a game of brinksmanship that he initiated. This guy was just out there giving his bog standard opinions before all this happened.